Guys, welcome you all. This is Shakti from Shakti Academy. Please like our video and share. Don't forget to subscribe our channel. Press bell icon so that you could get updated videos of our channel. Right? Hello guys, welcome you all. Today we are going to discuss about Kings and Chronicles. Right? So the Kings and Chronicles, as you know that there are the many points are there about the Mughal emperors and who have written their biographies and autobiographies and many things we are going to discuss in this lesson. And the concept of this lessons are nothing but the first one is the production of chronicle, as we discussed the Mughal emperor who ruled between 1526 to 1707 and who have provided the many informations about the Mughal courts and their empires and the nobilities and other thing. And as you know that the name of the Mughal emperor have been derived from the Mongols, and initially they were the descendants of the Mongols and the Turkish, right? So next one is from Turkish to Persian. Mughal court chronicles were written in the Persian, and the making of the manuscripts, and the manuscript is nothing but the thing which they have written in the handwritten, only in the handwritten, that will be considered as the manuscript. And the next one is there is an important two biographies is about the Akbarnama and the Badshahnama, that is about the Mughal emperors, and among these the important illustrated the Mughal official histories, and about this we are going to discuss in this lesson. And the next one is the universal peace, as you know already have studied in grade 8, Sulki Kul, which was being written by Abul Fazil, and in this he have written about the ideals of the Sulki Kul, as you know that absolute peace, right? So next one is the capital and the courts, and the capital city and the heart of the Mughal emperor is often considered, and the capital city and the palaces and other thing, and the gift and titles which used to be granted by the Mughal emperors to the other emperors, and in some cases other emperors wanted to pay money for accepting the such titles, right? So next one is the Mughal emperors, especially the kings, commissioned the court historians to write about the accounts, and these accounts were being recorded in safely in the archives for their future reference and other thing. And Babur laid the foundation of the Mughal emperor, as you know, by defeating the Ibrahim Lodi, who was considered as the last sultanate of Delhi, and at the battle of Panipat, right? So after that the modern history the modern historians writing about the English have termed the original text and the accounts of the text and chronicles, and which even in the present it still is used to continue the chronological orders records of the events. And the next one is the creation of the manuscript involved a number of people performing the variety of tasks, is nothing but preparing the papers and the printing and the designing, artisans and every people were been involved for preparing the manuscript and other things, right? So next one is the painters too were involved in the production. So usually whenever we are studying about anything or any newspaper or something, to make the readers to understand here the painting should be placed, as well as not only to understand but also it will help the readers to attract the articles or something else, right? So next one is Babur took over the Lodi capital of Agra, and the latter he have been during the 1560s Akbar had fort of Agra constructed with the red stones and quarried from the adjoining region, and in the year of 1517 he decided to build the new capital, that is, as you know, that Fatehpur Sikri, and the new then Fatehpur Sikri became the new capital of Akbar, right? Then after that the keeping the exact detailed accounts of this Mughal administration and everything, even the trade and the salaries and everything wanted to be mentioned in this record, and the different types of people were being involved in the such things, right? So after that the involvement of the Christianity, as you know that the Jesuit movement, and which they have been spreaded during the region of Akbar, and here the Akbar have a curiosity about to know about this Christianity as per their ideals, and finally he has compared both the Christianity ideals as well as that Islamic ideals to know about the knowledge, right? So the first Jesuit mission have reached the Mughal court at Fatehpur Sikri in 1580, and here this fate and the Jesuit priest have stayed there for 2 years. Within these 2 years the Akbar learned many things about this Christianity movements and other things, right? So these are the concepts we are going to discuss in this lesson, right? Yes. So first one is the Mughal and their empire. So the Mughals and their empire is nothing but the beginning to end of the Mughal. As you know that the founder of the Mughal empire was Zagiruddin Babur, and who was driven from the capital in the Asian homeland Fargana, and initially he was the ruler of Fargana, and who were been warning Uzbeks, right? So initially these Mughals were the descendants of both Timurids and the Mongols, and here instead of having the title of these Timurids, here these people used to adopt the title. Instead of adopting the title as a Mongols, they people used to be adopt the title as a Timurids, and the latter it has been derived to Mughal Emperor, right? So as per this, the first Mughal Emperor have been established by the Zahiruddin Babur at Kabul, and in then 1526 pushed further into the Indian subcontinent for searching of the extra territories, and he had expanded his resources for his clan, right? So followed by Zahiruddin Babur, next one is his successor Naseeruddin Humayun, who ruled between 1530 to 1540. In between the gap is nothing but here Sher Shah have been involved, and later once again for a year he has been ruled from 1555 to 1556, and here he had expanded his frontier of this empire, and he had lost it to the Afghan leader, as we discussed, that Sher Shah who drove him into exile, and he had made Humayun to stay away from the state for more than 15 years, right? So in 1555 Humayun defeated the Shur, and later the Jalaluddin Akbar. So the successor of Humayun was Jalaluddin Akbar, who ruled between 1556 to 1605, and he was considered as the greatest of all the Mughal emperor. Okay, so Jalaluddin Akbar considered as the greatest of all the Mughal emperor, who ruled between 1556 to 1605, right? So as per that, here this Akbar have consolidated the many empires in the largest and the strongest, richest kingdom of his time, and he too have introduced many archaeological sites, as well as he had introduced many things, the cultural and everything, right? So Akbar was succeeded in extending his frontiers and the economic to the Hindu Kush mountains, and he checked the expansionist designs of the Uzbeks of Turan and the Safavids of Iran, right? So followed by Akbar, here Akbar had three successors. First one is Jahangir, next one is Shah Jahan, next one is Aurangzeb, right? So after that, the three rulers maintained the consolidated the various instruments of the governance, and here the courts of a visible center of the Mughal. As you know that the court often considers the visible center of the Mughal power, and after 1707, after the death of Aurangzeb, the power of the dynasty have been diminished, and in 1857, the last session of this dynasty, Bahadur Shah Jafar II, who was considered as the last Mughal king, and you may have already well known in the revolt 1857 lesson, and at the time he was in the Red Fort, Delhi, and all the people from Meerut, they have been marched towards Delhi to as the Bahadur Shah Jafar to take the leadership of this revolt 1857, right? So next one is the production of the chronicles. So two chronicles we are going to discuss about in this lesson. The first one is what previously we discussed that about the Shah Jahan, and the next one is Alamgir, as you know that what Aurangzeb, right? So the production of the chronicles between the 1526 to 1705 provided as an important information about the Mughals and their empire, and the authors of the Mughal chronicles were invariably courtiers. Invariably courtier is nothing but apart from the courtiers, here most probably the author of this chronicle, and the historians, they wrote a focus on the event centers on the ruler and about his family and the courts, nobles, and the administration and arrangements. For example, here you know that if any courtiers started writing their biography about the king, he won't concentrate only about the king, but also he used to concentrate about his families and the courts and the nobles and the wars and administrations, arrangements and everything, right? So after that, the titles of the chronicles suggest that the eyes of their authors and the histories of the empire of the court was synonymous with that of the emperor, right? So even the title of the biographies will be having that similar name of the king, and which will make the readers to understand about easily, right? So some of the chronicles are Akbar Nama. As you know that the story of Akbar was written in Persian by Abul Fazl. So you know that Akbar Nama was written by Abul Fazl in the language of Persian. And the next one is Shah Jahan Nama, right? Next one is Shah Jahan Nama is nothing but the story of Shah Jahan, and the next one is Alamgir Nama is the story of Alamgir, and the title of the Mughal ruler Aurangzeb, right? So Alamgir is the one of the title of the Mughal ruler Aurangzeb. So that's what they have adopted the Alamgir Nama as the biography name of Aurangzeb, right? So next one is Abul Hamid Lahori. Abul Hamid Lahori is the author of Badshah Nama. Underline that Abul Hamid Lahori is the author of Badshah Nama, and which was considered as the official history in the 3 volumes, right? So 3 volumes of the 10 lunar years. The 10 lunar years, as you know that each thing has been conducted. Each history have been included the 10 lunar years, that is nothing but the life history have been divided into 3 types, right? So next one is the edited version of this Akbarnama and the Badshahnama were first published by the Asiatic Society in the 19th century. As you know that this Asiatic Society is one of the important society which they have excavated all the architectural sites in India. So as per this here, what happened? As per this here, Akbarnama and the Badshahnama were published by the Asiatic Society in the 19th century, right? So next one is the use of Persian. So previously we have discussed that the Persian played an important role in the Mughal courts of the administration. So as well as here, previously before the arrival of the Persian, there was another language was used by the Mughal Emperor, right? So as the Mughal were Changtai Turks by the origin, Turks were their mother tongue. So initially the mother tongue of these Mughals were Turkish, right? Turkish was their mother tongue, but their first ruler of the Babur who wrote and his memories in their languages, right? So initially the first Mughal emperor Babur have used the Turkish language, and in this language he had written many poems and the memories and everything for the memories of the Turkish, and the later it has been transferred into the Persian, right? So it was Akbar who consciously set out to make the Persians the leading language of the Mughal court. So so Persian was been introduced by the Akbar, and the later he was introduced it as the leading language of the Mughal court, and followed by Akbar all the people have started to follow the same language of Persian, right? So the Persian was elevated to the language of the emperor and conferred the power and prestige on those who had commanded of it. It was spoken by the king and the royal household and the elite at the court, right? So Persian was considered as the language of the elite people, and most probably this Persian was being spoken only by the kings, royal households and the elites at the courts, right? So later it became the language of administration, and even in some of the new villages, you know that interior villages, even some people were being neglected to adopt this Persian as their language. So after that, still the Mughal court have been given permissions to use the local language as their language of administration, right? So the Persian became Indianized by the observing the local idioms, and the new language Urdu sprang from the interaction of the Persian with the Hindavi, and the translation of the various books were done, like Babur's memories were translated from the Turkish into the Persian, and Baburnama and other things were being written in the Persian languages, right? So after that, even this Mahabharata also was being translated in the name of Raznama, which means the book of wars, into the Persian language, right? So next one is the making of a manuscript. The making of the manuscript is nothing but the handwritten documents were known as manuscript, and the place archives is nothing but where the documents used to be kept, right? So the center of manuscript production was the imperial Kitabkhana, and although it can be translated as a library, it was been the scriptorium, that is a place where the emperor's collection of manuscript, right? So scriptorium is one of the place, it's similar to the library, and this scriptorium contains that place. Scriptorium is the place where the documents of the emperors used to be there, especially the manuscript, right? So next one is the painted image. So as you know that the painted image played one of the important role for the writing the books, the documents, biographies and everything to make the readers to understand easily. So as per this, the painting served not only enhanced to beauty and made the beauty of the book, but also were believed that the process of the special power of communicating the ideas about the kingdom and the powers of the kings, in which ways that written medium could not, right? So this painting is not only considered as the beauty, but also it's considered to passing the messages from one to another, right? So the historian Abul Fasul described the painting as a magical art. Underline that the historian Abul Fasul described the painting as a magical art. So since it's considered as one of the main tool for communicating ideas, right? So it had the powers to make the inanimate objects to look as its post life. So here even the paintings will represent the real life of the people, and that's what here it has that magical power, and that's what the Abul Fazl have described it as magical art, right? So next one is the production of the painting portrayed the emperor and his courts, and the people were part of it, and where was the sources contains the tensions between the rulers and the representatives of the Muslim Orthodox and the ulama, right? So after that, the production of the paintings which portrays the emperor and his courts and the people, and also sometimes if the pictures were not being placed in the such books, and it will made the readers to be in tensions and to know about that concept and other thing, right? Yes. So next one is the concept of the ideal king. There were the three concepts of this ideal kingdom. First one is known as the divine light. Next one is the absolute peace, that is a sulky cool, and the third one is sovereignty, right? So the divine light is nothing but Abul Fazl placed the Mughal kingship as the highest station in the hierarchy of the object, that receiving the hail emanating from the god. So here Abul Fazl placed Mughal kingship as the god, and he was inspired by the famous Iranian Safi and Shihabuddin Sharwardi. Shihabuddin Sharwardi is one of the Iranian Shafi, was impressed by Abul Fazl, and who was the man first developed the ideas of Islamic rules, right? So of the hierarchy in which the divine light was being transmitted as a king, transmitted to the king, and who then became the source of the spiritual guidance for his subject. So next one is absolute peace. So absolute peace, previously we discussed that Abul Fazl described the ideals of the sulky cool. As you know that sulky cool, the meaning of the word is absolute peace, as this cornerstones of the enlightenment of the rule. In the sulky cool, all the religions and the schools of the thought, freedom of expression, and on the conditions that the people can be express their freedom, both by speech, in artists, and everything can be expressed, and this considered as the universal peace, right? So next one is the sovereignty. As you know that this Abul Fazl defined the sovereignty as the social contract. Here the emperor protect the four essence of his subjects, right? So here the emperor wanted to protect the four essence of his subject. First one is namely life, is known as the jan. Next one is property, is known as mal. Third one is a honor, is known as namas, and the fourth one is the faith, is known as deen. So these were the four essence of the king's subject. And note on, the four essence of the king's subject is nothing but life is known as jan, and the property is known as mal, honor is known as namas, and the faith known as deen, and the written demand of the obedience and the share of the resources. Okay, yes. So next one is the Mughals capitals and their court. So the heart of the Mughal Empire was their capital. Underline that. So initially the capital city of the Mughal Empire was their heart, and where the court assembled, which frequently shifted during the 16th and 17th century. So previously we discussed that the court of the Mughal was considered as their heart, and especially the years between 16th to 17th century, they have been frequently shifting their capital from one place to another place, right? So here the Babur took over the Lodi capital of Agra, and during the 1516 he had built a new fort of Agra and constructed with a red sandstone and acquired from the adjoining region, right? So after that in 1570s here Babur desired to build a new capital, as you know that Fetfur Sikri, and this enormous arched gateway, and that is nothing but Buland Darwaza. If you look at that NCRT book, then you could get the picture of this Buland Darwaza, and which is known as the largest and enormous gateway of this Fetfur Sikri, which mean to remain the visitors to the Mughal victory in Gujarat. Right, so this is a Buland Darwaza, is a Mughal victory. I mean that remember of visitors, remember of Mughal victory, which has been placed in Gujarat, right? So Akbar commissioned the construction of this white marble tomb for Sheikh Salim Chisti, and next to the majestic Friday Mosque at Sikri. The next one is 1585. The capital was transferred to Lahore to the northwest under the great control. So after that, once again in 1585, the capital was being transferred to Lahore and to bring that northwest under the great control. Then the year of 1648, the court army households moved from Agra to the newly completed and the imperial capital Shahjahanabad, right? So this Shahjahanabad was being built by the Shah Jahan, and after that the court has been moved from Agra to the new city Shahjahanabad, and it was the new addition to the world residential city of Delhi. And with this red fort, the Jama Masjid, and the tree-lined esplanade with tree-lined esplanade. So everything you could see, that's NCRT textbook figure 9.8, as well as the Buland Darwaza and the Fetfur Sikri, along with the 237 bazaars and precious and the spacious of homely for them, nobility, and everything have been mentioned in this Shahjahanabad. And that's what here even the British have been surprised to see the city of the Shahjahanabad, where the many activities and the many architectural places and the facilities have been mentioned, built within this Shahjahanabad, right? So later the Mughal court physical arrangements focused on the sovereign mirrored his status on the heart of the society. In the court statue was determined by the spatial proximity to the king, and the place accorded to the courtier by the ruler ruler was a sign of his importance in the eyes of the emperor, and you know that the forms of the salutation to the ruler and indicated the person's status in the hierarchy. Besides, there were the explicit protocols and the governed diplomatic envies of the Mughal court on the special occasions such as the anniversary of the accessions to the throne and Eid, Shahi Bharat and the Holi. The court was being full of life, right? So here what they not only the importance to have been given in the cities, building the cities, but also during the festivals, and everything will be decorated in the diplomatic manner. And during the festival of Holi and the other things, these palace and the court official courts were being decorated with the color papers and the wrapping sheets and everything, and the gift and titles. So next one is the main important thing is the gift and titles, which time some used to be provided frequently by the Mughals, and in that cases, if anybody want a title and anybody wanted to adopt such title, he wanted to pay remuneration to the Mughal emperor, right? So as per this, the grand titles were being adopted by the Mughal emperors. At the same time, you know that the coronation after the victory over an enemy, right? So whenever the Mughal emperors conquered that conquered enemies, and if they get a victory, sure they will be adopting the title, and the granting of the titles of the men and the merit was an important aspect of this Mughal polity. And as per this, each and every Mughal rulers used to be adopt the title, right? So this title could be earned or the paid for. So previously I told you that the title sometimes could be earned by defeating the enemy, and sometimes it would be getting for the paid, right? So the courtiers never approached the emperors empty-handed. In diplomatic relations, gift were being regarded as the sign of honor and respect. So underline that. So in the gift were being regarded as the sign of honor and respect in the Mughal court. So that's what the no people will enter this Mughal court without any gift, right? So next one is the imperial setup. The first one is a household. So as you know that the imperial setup is nothing but this imperial capital is considered as the sacred place. Okay, sacred place. In this, you know that this imperial household consisting the emperor's wives and the concubines. Concubine is nothing but illegals. Okay, so his name and the distant relatives and the female servants and everybody slaves, everybody will be there, a member of this household. And initially the polygamy was practiced widely in the Indian subcontinent. So otherwise, that is why the women were not allowed to go out of this palace, right? So here the marriage was the way of cementing political relationship on the forging alliances. The gift of territory was often accompanied by the gift of the daughters of marriage, right? So here the territory, some of the territories have been captured by this Mughal emperor by marrying the Rajput clans, and with that they have adopted the titles, such titles as well as the place as the gift of the marriage, right? So in the Mughal household, distinctions was maintained between the wives and who came from the royal family and known as Begums. So Begums is nothing but the wives of the Mughals who came from the royal family, and the next one is Ahas, also considered as the wives who were not from the noble birth, right? So there were the two important household were been given. That first one is Begum and next one is August, right? So officials and the requirements is nothing but previously I told you that most probably this Mughal emperor used to have a relationship with this Rajput clan by marrying their daughters. So with this, these Rajput rulers, they got such ranking positions in the Mughal court, right? So one important pillar of the Mughal state was the corps of the officers, also referred by the historians collectively as the nobility, which was recruited from the diverse ethnic and the religious groups. For a member of this nobility, imperial service was the way of acquiring power, wealth and highest possible reputation, right? So the corps of the officers is nothing but, as you know, the military soldiers who were being recruited from the different nobility as well as the different religious groups, and with this, these people were being given the main advantages as well as the support of this Mughal emperor. So next one is Turani and the Iranian nobles were the present from the earliest phase of the curving the political domination, and you know that the arrival of the Turanians and the Iranians to the Mughal court, and they got such titles in the early phase of carrying the political domination, right? So the two ruling groups of this Indian origin entered into the imperial service from the 1516 onwards, and the first one is Rajputs and the Indian Muslims who have been entered into this imperial service of this Mughal between 1562 onwards, so 1560 onwards, the Indian Muslims as well as the Rajputs have been involved, right? So the Iranians gained high officers under the Jahangir, and whose politically influential queen Nur Jahan was an Iranian, right? So next one is the noble participated in the military campaigns with their armies and also served as officers of the empire in the provinces, right? So even the nobles of the cities used to be participate with the military campaigns along with the kings, and sometimes they used to be show their armies and to show the nobility on the king, right? So each military commander recruited, equipped and trained, and the main striking arm of the Mughal army was cavalry, right? Underline that the main striking arm of the Mughal was the cavalry, and here whoever have been recruited for the military purpose, and they will be given the perfect commands, the equipped with the trained and everything, training should be given for that, and records, and the Bir Bakshi supervised the corps of the court's writers, and who recorded all the applications and the documents presented of the court, and all the imperial orders also, everything wanted to be recorded perfectly. And this Akbarat contained all kinds of the information such as attendance of the court, and the grants of the officers, and the titles, and the diplomatic missions, and the presents received and presents given, and the inquiries made by the emperor about the health of an officer, and everything, each and every dialogue has been mentioned in this Akbarat. So that's one of the document which contains the activities of the court, right? So next one is the Mughal Chronicles usually portrayed the emperor and his court as controlling the entire administrative apparatus down to the village level. Okay, so next one is the beyond the frontier. So beyond the frontier is nothing but the diplomatic relationship and the conflicts of the Mughal with the neighboring political power. So apart from this subcontinent, here what are the neighboring and the political relationship is used to be maintained with this Mughal, right? So the relationship of the Mughal kings with the neighboring countries of Iran and the Turan, and hinged on the control of the frontier defined by the Hindu Kush mountain. So most probably these people came from this Iran and the Turan to India from the Hindu Kush mountain, and which played an important role, as well as this Hindu Kush mountain which separated Afghanistan from the region of the Iran and the Central Asia, right? So this constant aim of this Mughal policy was the ward of this potential danger, and by the controlling the strategic outputs, notably Kabul and Conquer, right? So the relationship between the Mughals and the Ottomans was marked by the concern ensures the movement of the merchants and the pilgrims in the territories under this Ottoman control, and where these merchants and the pilgrims frequently without permissions they can be enter into the states, and they can do their administration and do the pilgrimage and the merchants works and everything, right? So by the end of this 15th century, Portuguese mercenaries, as you know that the Vasco da Gama who entered India after discovering the direct sea route, and the Portuguese king was interested to propagate the Christianity, spread of the Christianity in this in this country with the help of the missionaries of the Society of Jesus, right? So that is known as the Jesuit movement. Jesuit movement is nothing but the Society of the Jesus, right? So as the Christian missionaries were being immersed in India during that 16th century, and which considered as the part of the process of the trade empire building, right? So after that, Akbar was curious. Then later Akbar was curious about to know about this Christianity, and he had dispatched an embassy. He had sent his embassy to the Goa to invite the Jesuit priest, and the first Jesuit mission reached the Mughal court at Fort Sikri in 1580, and they stayed there for 2 years. In these 2 years, the Jesuits spoke to Akbar about the Christianity and debated the virtues with the ulama, right? Ulama is nothing but the sacred book of Islamic society, and the more missions were being sent to Mughal court at Lahore in 1591 and 1595, right? So the highest respect shown by the Akbar towards the member of this Jesuit mission and impressed them deeply, and they inherited the emperor's open interest and the doctrine of Christianity as the sign of his acceptance of their faith, right? So even you know that Akbar did not neglect the people of this Jesuit movement. Even he had given that much respect on them, and as well as he had given their open interest about the doctrine of the Christianity as a sign of his acceptance of their faith, right? So Akbar quest for the religious knowledge led the interfaith debates in the Ibadat Khana at Fort Sikri between the learned Muslims, Hindus, Jains, Parsis and Christians. Even you know that Akbar wanted to get the knowledgeable, as well as he has conducted the quest for the religious knowledge to interfaith the debates, and the debates at Ibadat Khana, divided the Ibadat Khana at Faithful Sikri between the learners of Muslim, Hindus, Jains, Parsis and the Christians. These people were being debated together to speak about their ideals of their religions and other thing. With this, Akbar had gained some of the knowledges, right? So Akbar's religious views matured as he gathered knowledge about their doctrine, and he moved away from the orthodox Islamic way to understand the religious towards. So initially Akbar was considered as the Islamic ruler, but he had moved away from this Islamic and he had put his interest to know about all the religious faith and their principles and everything. And you know that this Islamic ways of understanding religion towards the self-conceived electic form of divine worship focused on the light and the sun, right? So initially, as you know that the Islamic people, they used to be worship on the moon god, but instead the different group of people were being used to be worship the, especially just the Jainism and the Parsis and the Hindus and every people used to be worship the god, the sun as their god, right? So the diplomatic relationship in the sun and god has been God with the people of God with the learned people of Hindus, Parsis, Christians and other Jainism and other community. And here Akbar gave importance to the people of not only the Islamics but also to the other people, right? Yes. Thank you.